Hi everyone! Magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang gabi. Ako nga pala si Michael.
And ako nga pala si Brian. And welcome to the Battle of Clouds. So, Michael, ano nga bang pag-uusapan natin ngayon?
So, for today, we'll be talking about Cloud Native with our very special guest, John Delizo. So, John, tell us something about yourself. What do you do? What are you passionate about?
Hello. Ayun. So, magandang umaga rin, magandang hapon, and magandang gabi. At hug-ups sa mga gabi nagde-develop at nagde-deploy. So, I'm John. And something about myself, I handle applications development, DevOps, and cloud sa company namin, sa Axa Philippines. So, I handle the agility of the applications development and been in the industry for a couple of years. And ayun, mostly focusing on systems development, focusing on .NET, focusing on DevOps, and right now, cloud.
Mm-hmm.
I actually remember back then when I was still a Microsoft student partner, you were an MVP too, di ba, John?
Aray ko naman, yes.
Pero,
it's been a journey along with Michael then. We called Michael back then, and I win with the batch of MVPs with when we started the user groups where we started with this. We started with DevOps, is still back being very very very
Early days.
niche pa siya noon back then, and then mostly Windows, mostly deployments, mostly .NET, no, Michael, no? So
Yep.
yeah,
Alright.
actually, I remember back then na yan, sobrang amazed ako dun sa mga binibigay niyong talks regarding forgot what it's called nung time na yun, Visual Studio Team Services na ba yung time na yun? I actually forgot, pero
Dami naging iterations eh.
I remember that. It was really amazing, whenever you guys with John and then John and Toto, ayun, I still remember, So, yeah, Michael, you have any questions pa ba regarding John?
All good. So, let's move on dun sa mismong topic natin.
Mm-hmm. So, actually, our topic for today is regarding cloud native, di ba?
Mhm.
So, I would like to ask John, kung ano nga ba tong cloud native na to? And bakit nga ba siya tinawag na native?
there are a lot of like articles that will tell you about cloud native, no? I'd like to have my own spin on cloud native, coming from like an experience of moving to the cloud and going to the cloud and then developing internal the cloud, inside the cloud. When I say inside the cloud, you're really, when you say cloud native, you're born in the cloud. Doon ka ginawa. Wala siyang excess baggage. Yan siyang isa sa mga you are really built on top of the cloud framework. Kung sino mang vendor yan, it doesn't matter. What matters is doon ka ginawa. You're running in an infrastructure which is not your own. It is in the cloud. So maraming spin, pero ang pinaka thought niya is doon ka dinesign, and you are designed to be used in cloud. So maraming pagkakaiba. So I'm hearing right now a lot of like migration principles and all. Microsoft, AWS, Google has their own framework of upgrading to the cloud, but it's not really, for me, it's not really cloud native. It's just making your stuff works in cloud. Whereas if you are really cloud native, you're taking full advantage of cloud elasticity, cloud scale, cloud resiliency, cloud security. Yun yung talagang what we call cloud native.
Mhm.
Hindi ka foreign object, hindi ka transplant. Kumbaga,
Kumbaga kasi 'di ba, usually, based din sa experience ko, yung mga nag-a-adapt ng cloud, especially yung early days, usually 'di ba from VMs na nasa physical data center nila, gusto lang nilang i-lift and shift papuntang cloud through IaaS, 'di ba, infrastructure as a service.
yes,
And again, in your perspective, that's not really cloud native, 'di ba? Kasi it wasn't designed to be in the cloud in the first place.
pinapagana mo lang siya. Pinampansamantagal mo lang siya just para mag-survive ka sa cloud, but you won't survive. Imagine you will still hit the physical limit of a VM.
Mhm.
You're still gonna hit your physical OS. I remember Windows and Linux and other operating systems still have their own physical limits, and you can only scale so much.
Mhm. And not just yung mismo OS, diba? Even the runtimes you install with it.
Yes.
I also remember Nginx, yung, diba, the way you set it up on a VM, may mga limitations din siya.
And in databases, meron tayong mga, di ba, mga RDBMS na available na on the cloud, di ba?
Mhm.
Being cloud native, it means that you're using databases na either SaaS na siya or hindi siya IaaS. Like the difference being you install a SQL server on a VM and then call it cloud native. Kahit doon mo siya in-install, doon mo siya ginawa, pero it's not built for that. You're still going to be like constrained. Whereas if you have a sharded, shredded Cosmos DB, something like that, you're gonna be, and then that's cloud native.
Mhm.
Or you're gonna be
Okay.
using SQL server na cloud, yung single instance, di ba? That's
Mhm.
it's cloud. But again, if you're gonna go back and then say, gawin ko kaya, install ko yung SQL server ko sa VM, then that's not cloud native.
Oo. Well, eto, i-segue ko na din about containers kasi usually mayroong comparison or may correlation between cloud native and containers. In your perspective, ano yung correlation nila? And again, what are containers in the first place?
Okay. Going back to the SQL server, no? Magandang segue yan. Before kasi, when we say cloud, you install something and then put it in a VM and then call it cloud. Yun yung dati, IaaS, cloud. It's not cloud, So, containers, on the other hand, you don't really install anything. So, in my own spin, kasi ang daming containers are opinionated. Ang daming opinions. If you search really on the internet right now and say, what are containers? There will be a lot of definition. But for me, ang container ay service as a configuration. So it's what you deploy is actually the configuration, the design. Parang yung design mo, yung architecture mo ang dinideploy mo instead of VMs, instead of services. So those are containers. Nagkataon lang na parang naging prolific yung microservice and all. Doon tayo nagkaroon ng parang containerization, but the containers itself, it's really meant for orchestration. And then that's why I'm coming from a CI/CD DevOps guy, and then coming from an infrastructure background wherein you deploy that IaaS, and SaaS as a config that creates containers or that creates services. So those for me are containers. So but in the nutshell, ano bang pinaka ngayon ng containers? Di ba ang containers ngayon, sinasabi nila merong connotation VM of a VM, narinig niyo?
Okay.
So VM on a VM, which is it's parang hindi siya fit. Hindi siya fit sa ganun eh. It's just you're running a VM on top of a VM. Parang hypervisor over a hypervisor. So hindi siya
Mm-mm. Actually, in a nutshell, in my perspective then, di ba, I agree. Yung when people think of containers as really something very big or very new of its own, I think on some degree, yes. Pero in a way, just like yung paano mo siya ginawang analogy, it's really a virtualization on top of a virtualization.
which is dapat hindi. For me, hindi. Dapat, containers is like, you're saying, ito yung isang service that contain, this is a service that contains the following apps, or the way I describe kasi a service is like, it serves a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like in a kitchen, this is my fryer. So I deploy a fryer. And then that fryer is like doon ako nagdi-deep fry.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a service for me. So you define a fryer that contains yung loob niya, yung like gas range niya doon sa fryer, yung ano niya, yung na nagluluto, fry station niya eh. If you see Jollibee, may taga-fry talaga, tapos may counter. So isa siyang container.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
imagine mo yung unahan na maraming kang counter, di ba? So do you define one counter na different sa isang counter, di ba? May isa kang config, isang standard of a counter. You have a counter, you have a person, you have that. So isa kang container doon, isa kang service. And
Okay.
that's for me as a container.
Okay. Actually makes sense, 'di ba? And again, magiging effective talaga yung containerization is kung merong isolation, and yun nga, doon na nga papasok yung idea ng microservices, yung idea ng, 'di ba, na parang single purposely built service in a container. Let's say instead of doing multiple just think of it, 'di ba, na parang sa data access na lang, 'di ba? Na parang as much as possible, you want to separate yung iba't ibang functionality ng data access instead of creating one big giant service that gets all the data across the whole systems.
Yeah, it's like pizza rin eh. Your analogy on microservices, it also jives in the how would you like to slice, or how would you like containerize or compartmentalize your entire application. One example is an e-commerce app wherein sa e-commerce, 'di ba, meron kang checkout, meron kang fulfillment, meron kang payment. So if I'm going to compartmentalize that, that's my use cases. Meron akong container or as a group of containers that will do checkout. That checkout would have microservices inside those na magsasabi payout, ganon, go to tawag ito, yung payout, tapos titignan mo yung order, tapos titignan mo kung may stock keeping ka and all. So hindi siya parang hindi siya isang malaking app na nagagawa nun.
Even yung cart itself, 'di ba, yung concept ng paglalagay ng items sa cart, iba siya dun sa mismong payment, 'di ba? So
may nakita akong gano'n, ang ganda. Naka-NDA lang talaga ako, pero I saw one of those implementation na the cart was really a microservice. That's the first time that I see a microservice that was really a microservice na pag fire and forget. Like I want to have like I'm paying out, pag nagbayad siya, yun lang, siya nang bahala, siya nang kausap mo. Wala kang kausap na ibang service. And then pag check pero yung unahan, yung pinaka-website, ang galing. Parang isang website lang kausap mo, pero sa likod, kami nagpa-fire.
And at the same time, I think yung orchestration around it, 'di ba? Yung internal communication across those different services you kind of think of it for granted, pero merong complexities around it, di ba? Kaya very important yung orchestration.
Um, kaya nga medyo opinionated yung yung approach doon. Some would say that the orchestration will be handled by the proxy service
Mhm.
proxy service that translate a request parang API gateway, or
Mhm.
the orchestrator actually can call all microservice
Mm.
pero not, are we all Google and are we all like Netflix?
Exactly.
Hindi, di ba may mga gano'n? Hindi, pwede yan. Yung si checkout count, yung si checkout, si fryer, pwedeng mag-call ng kitchen. Back and vice versa, pwede sila magtawagan basta REST call.
Mhm.
Microservice na yon. May mga purists naman magsasabi, hindi, daan kayo application gateway. Application gateway says kung saan kang route pupunta. So,
Oo.
opinionated approach, dapat fit, sabi mo nga, dapat fit for purpose dapat.
Mm-mm. And I think, di ba, doon papasok talaga, well, mabalik tayo sa topic ng cloud native, di ba? So, yung pinag-usapan natin about microservices, about this, orchestration and stuff. In my opinion, di ba, this thing wasn't built back in the days with a purpose ng mga traditional IaaS or traditional VMs, di ba, or data centers. So I think dun nga mas magiging convenient or mas magiging less complex yung implementation ng mga microservices and containerizations kung cloud native. Would you agree on that?
There are, in fact, that's one of the tenets ng cloud native. When you design something, you design it for scale. And if you design it for scale, sometimes you have to break your application apart. And not sometimes, but most of the time, you have to break your applications apart so that each and every module, sabi nga ng mga matatanda, module and components can grow or can multiply on its own. And hindi mangyayari yon kung wala kang containerization and kung hindi ka naka-microservice. So, kailangan microservice ka if you're cloud native. So, right now, function apps, one of the good example ng cloud native technology. You can just run Node.js or can just run C# function. Tapos it gives you like a service, no. Naalala ko nga, no, pinagtatawanan namin to nung sa company ko. Before, hindi kami makapag-generate ng GUID. Nakakatawa. Kailangan kami. So, may GUID lang, di ba dati sa .NET, we just take system.net, system.GUID, di ba?
Tas new GUID,
New GUID, di ba? Hindi kayo makapag-generate. Sabi namin, sige, ganito gawin natin. Kuha tayo ng function app na ang gagawin niya, return new GUID. Tapos, dahil yung mga tao, mga tamad, sabi, uy, may tagagawa ng GUID. Tawagin natin sa service. Sabi ko, guys, bakit tumalaki yung consumo ng function ng GUID? Tagagawa lang to ng GUID. So parang even that small, you can actually say na microservice siya kasi it can grow on its own.
And hindi siya tied in sa isang system lang, di ba? Na parang, kailangan mo i-scale yung isang system para mag-scale din yung functionality or yung capability ng service na to handle more requests.
And yun yung pagkakaiba ng containers, microservice, sa dati nating ginagawa. Uy, umamin ka, dati nating ginagawa to. So, gawa tayo ng e-commerce site. File, new project, new solution, isang ASP.NET website, shopping cart.
Or isang tawag nito, ang tawag sa mga tulad na Orchard, yung mga WordPress, di ba? Plugin based na CMS yon.
Tapos isang instance. For those isang instance ka, tapos paano mo i-scale? How do you scale it?
Di ba? Parang naalala ko rin nun, back in the days, at least na-separate yung web tsaka yung database. So, at least parang design consideration na yun from the beginning. Pero eventually, di ba, parang, again, that one big gigantic CMS
Has to be
needs to be,
uh,
uh,
all together, sabay-sabay. So kung sabay-sabay kita taba, sabay-sabay. Diba? Or sama-sama kayo. Like for example, tatlo yung instance na kailangan mo tapos naka-load balancer ka. Let's say, you have an F5 load balancer up front or an application gateway load balancer up front. Even if you have a very robust load balancer, you have to scale yung tatlong tatlo mong web app sa likod. So you have no choice. You really have to scale 3. But if it is a microservice, you just need to scale which is being hit the most, or which module are you hitting the most. Ayun. So that's actually a good segue sa microservice, cloud native containers. And what's the future kaya? Yun yung mas interesado ako. What comes next after this?
okay. Ako, in my honest opinion, di ba, well, it should be a hybrid cloud. I mean, I think the future should be hybrid, both in terms of choosing what cloud vendor to use and choosing what infrastructure.
Pero let's say there is a counter argument of on multi-cloud.
They want to move mag-cloud, di ba? May kailangan pa rin nilang magkaroon ng edge infrastructure.
And yun nga, so it's a matter of question. Do you really need like multi-cloud edge implementations if if ang infrastructure mo is Microsoft, so or infrastructure mo ay Google or maybe AWS? Ano ba yung mga argument outside of that of the cloud native? One of the argument outside of the cloud native is, or inside the cloud native is multi-cloud, and kailangan daw as containers, kailangan kaya mo siyang dalhin from multi-cloud to multi-cloud. Tinatanong ko nga, ano bang business nyo? So bakit nyo kailangan mag-multi-cloud? Ibig sabihin, mas malaki ba yung business mo kaysa kay Microsoft? Pag bumagsak si Microsoft or si AWS at si Google, kumbaga, do you really need multi-cloud? Do you really need an edge? Hindi naman tayo parehas Google. I mean, hindi naman tayo kasing laki ni Google eh.
And again, 'di ba? Probably ibang argument dyan is maybe make certain services yung specific cloud vendor na gusto nila i-offer. Pero again, yung strategy nga, it's again, maraming concept around it that circulates. Let's say, yung mga pricing models, yung mga business discounts, di ba? Minsan, dun din kasi yun nag-i-influence nun di ba, Brian?
Actually, yun nga yung gusto ko sanang itanong. Since compared with traditional, which I am familiar of, paano naman ba yung pag kinompare or yung kinompare yung cost when it comes to cloud native naman?
It's actually a very good question. No? Pag cloud native kasi, mas importante kasi ngayon na yung verbatim at yung underlying nito is it's capex over opex. So, are you willing to invest on something big that you may use, or you wanna pay as you wanted to do, or pay as you use, or pay per use? So, which model would your company be as best? One example, let's say you're like a system integrator like Dell. Meron kang sariling infrastructure. Siyempre, ikaw tagagawa ng server mo, no? I would imagine that that they would subscribe heavily on cloud. Baka nga sila pa binibilhan ng cloud. And I don't know. So, but if you are a non-IT company, servicing a service company ka, what's your flavor? So, mas mahal, depends how do you want to say mahal? Mahal is mahal is relative.
Oo. And
Totoo.
justifiable by value, di ba? Yun din yung...
Justifiable value, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Siyempre, kung mahal mo, may value.
Yes. Buti pa yung buti pa yung nagmamahal. Buti pa yung mga nila, mga service nila nagmamahal.
Mm. And actually yun din yung nandun na rin tayo sa usapan na yun kung ano yung mga preferred ba na itong each companies na to. Gusto ko rin sanang itanong is everyone on board ba with cloud native? Kasi syempre hindi naman siguro lahat mas prefer tong ganitong approach over traditional, or actually I don't know. So what do you think? Is everyone okay with the cloud native, or may mga experiences ka na ba na parang hindi nila ganong nagustuhan tong ganitong approach?
And what's the usual resistance? Ano yung nag-hold back?
Ako
Tama.
I will tell you sige, let's discount government. Okay.
Mhm.
Outside the government, that's kasi sa if government, it's going to be a little bit difficult, lalo na sa atin, that's where I see na na hindi sila palatable sa cloud. Pero sige, labas tayo doon para wala tayong para talagang industry specific. Most of the industries that I see and I heard about is really gaining to the cloud. It's a matter of race, pero nag-hold back? Parang nag-uuyuan. Alam mo yung sa Tagalog, nag-uuyuan. O, ikaw muna. For example, banking. Why is it that that one bank, I won't mention, why is it that one bank is gung-ho going to the cloud, and why is it one bank is very traditional? Pareha sila na industriya ha. Bakit? Feeling ko kasi hindi pa nila nakikita yung value at yung return ng cloud. Kasi they're be investing billions of pesos. Wala kasi silang infra No infra. Kung maalala ko yung tagline nila, no infra on 2022. Zero. That's one bank. The other bank, they're still buying servers. Tapos naghihintay sila. Oh, ito ba will you be profitable enough na ganyan? Would you hold ground? Paano kayo magiging resilient? So nobody knows. And then it's proven for a couple of industries, lalo na sa startups and sa mga agile companies. Pero sa more traditional ones, yon. That's actually the best.
And I think maliban sa actual, infrastructure and cloud vendor itself, it also comes with yung capability nung company or nung organization to adapt to cloud, 'di ba?
I am seeing CIOs right now getting younger and younger. And they are more agile, I suppose. They are more open. And although I agree that it's based on that, what I'm trying to derive is medyo nagiging open ngayon. It's kasi nga lang nag-uuyuan. Ano ba to? Is this what risk are we taking to cloud native? In fact, some of the companies that I saw, meron lang silang certain percentage of going to cloud. May may glass ceiling sila.
How about yung mga telcos naman? Para kasing nakikita ko na hindi ba sila nagbe-benefit dito sa sa how do I say this, sa cloud native, sa edge use cases?
Sila? At what perspective kaya? As a consumer ng cloud? Or as provider ng...
As a provider.
Kasi pag as a provider, I think they have a lot of things to catch up into, lalo na sa Pilipinas.
I agree kasi like for example, share ko na lang din dito sa Australia. may mga big telco players dito, talagang heavily invested sila sa 5G and yung edge infrastructure on a location na yung meron silang mga hyper connectivity papuntang cloud and all.
Hyper. 'Di ba? Yung some telcos na nag-o-offer ngayon ng yung direct connect talaga papuntang Azure, direct connect from your data center or from actually data center. May nakita ko ngayon nag-o-offer from your Cisco port switch papasok ng cloud.
Oo, meron.
Padaanin sa telco sa data center mo, wag mo nang padaanin sa big pipe sa sa backbone mo. Diretso mo na yung opisina mo kabit mo sa cloud. Di ba?
Oo, yun nga eh.
And you cannot do that with copper.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's if you're talking about telcos, that's also a new a really parang government. It's a different topic altogether. Diyan ba ilan ba telco diyan sa
dalawa yung major, which is Telstra and Optus, but then maraming mga distributor, I think more than 10 or more than 12.
Yun yung major lang, yung dalawa na yun. So actually, just one more question on my end. Kasi personally, itong cloud native, medyo bago lang sa pandinig ko eh. Relatively new for me. And so, dito sa mga companies na mga pinanggalingan ko and currently na winaworkan ko, this is very new to us then. And honestly, based sa mga narinig ko from our discussion, sobrang interesting and I really hope na someday magamit din namin to into some of our projects. So my question is, do you think or do you see the cloud native being as big as it should be in maybe next couple of years?
It's already here.
I feel like hindi kasi siya ganong ina-embrace ng mga marami na.
I think may meron din kasing knowledge gap or parang disparity around. O kung kunyari sa AWS, diba? Kung naka EC2 ako tsaka S3 bucket ako, cloud native na ba ako? Diba? Parang merong mga ganong diba, purist dispute. Diba? Diba? Na parang kailangan naka-container ako, kailangan naka-Kubernetes ako and everything para masabi kong cloud native talaga ako. So, I think eventually, yun yung kailangan mag-evolve as a concept.
Yung Kubernetes merong file access. Sabi ko, saglit lang. Saglit lang ha. Magkaiba yun. Saan mo nalagay lang file? Okay. Hindi ka naka-container. Ganon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to put it in Kibana or some of the some log parsing. So, going to your point, yes. Hindi siya it's made knowledge disparity. And sometimes it's a little bit opinionated na nga, no?
Oo, sobrang opinionated na talaga. So, I mean, again, speaking of opinions, ang dami pa natin pwede maging pag-usapan or, next episodes about this. Pero, unfortunately, we need to end this episode. So, wrap up na tayo in terms of, Brian, ano bang mga key takeaways natin for today?
Well, personally, for me, again, cloud native is very new. And I actually thought before that cloud native is related to, mobile native development. And ngayon, natatawa na lang ako sa sarili ko na iniisip ko yun before. But anyway, I really enjoyed this. And, my key takeaway on this one is that cloud native isn't just a single or a certain service, not just a certain application. It's an approach. So it's basically how you would deal with, how you would build your solution or architect your solution. So I really enjoyed this, and I really hope that someday in our company we'll be able to implement this into our solutions. So how about you, Michael? Ano naman yung mga takeaways mo dito?
Ako honestly, ako kasi familiar na din ako sa cloud native, pero I think ang magandang takeaway dito talaga is this is still an I would say, as a concept, di ba? Similar to, DevOps, Agile, and everything else in the past. Parang evolving pa siya as a concept. And highly opinionated, which I think is very important because that shows interest and that shows, traction on a certain topic. So, I think my key takeaway really is watch this space. Marami pa mangyayari dito. And speaking of, John, any final words, sa mga listeners natin about, about cloud native, or anything really under the sun, and how can they reach out to you?
Okay, for cloud native muna, there is no one solution. Your solution has to fit for purpose. Go back to the usual use cases. What is the problem that you are solving? So going back to my roots as a programmer, what problem am I debugging right now? And then and cloud being cloud native, microservice, containers is just one of your arsenal to do that, or to solve that problem. It's not a silver bullet na sige, lagyan natin ng Kubernetes, it fixes things.
Mhm.
So hindi. And yeah, so that's my like takeaway din, and that's what I wanted to share, that it has to be built for purpose, and it has to have a use case. Without a use case, it's just an experiment ulit.
It's not
And
a silver
also,
bullet, kumbaga.
and also be careful on opinionated approach, kasi meron silang pinanggagalingan, may pinanggagalingan ka din, so baka nasaktan na sila, di ba?
Mhm.
So,
Uh, it's nowhere different, di ba, kung which vendor or which cloud vendor to choose, di ba? Again, opinionated din yan. So,
Right.
many things in technology is really opinionated to the point that sometimes it becomes philosophical and cultural.
di ba? Parang kulang na lang na cloud and beer, parang ganun.
Mm.
So anyway,
All right, contacts.
contacts, I'm in Twitter, Deployinator, and and I'm on GitHub as well. On GitHub, I am not really active on on open source. I try to contribute as much as I can, but on my own way. So I can be reached in GitHub, and I have an email. I am a more traditional, if it is really a concern, or like you really wanted to ask for help. Email is john at johndelizo.com. So just send me an email, and I will try to answer it as soon as I can. Ayun.
All right.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so I guess yun lang naman. Michael, you have anything else that you want to talk about?
All
Wanna
good.
say?
All right. I
Okay.
mean, I think, invite ulit natin si John in future episodes, I would say.
Surely, oo.
Okay guys, looking forward. Salamat.
All right.
Alright,
Bye, everyone.
bye.
Bye.